G'day folks! With Boeing planes seemingly falling out of the sky, a geopolitical war that will never seem to pass, and the stock market volatility that is just off the Richter scale, this is like living in a Twilight Zone, a nightmare we can just not wake up from. So I figured I'd mix it up this Monday by rolling back to a story of when I got fired from my job and I stole from the company and I stole from the boss, and I'm only praying that this is far enough in the future it doesn't come back to bite me in the ass today. So if you can appreciate that, consider hitting that like button, folks, because this takes me back to when I had a gleam in my eyes, a 19-year-old trying to get my career off the ground of being a magician. That's right, I was trying to become a magic person while I also was working with my good friend who was starting a DJ company roughly at the same time. And those two businesses coincided so well together because most people that needed a DJ also needed a magician, and most events where I was performing magic also needed some kind of music. So we were kind of throwing work back and forth, but I remember my buddy getting me into the bars and the clubs right when I was 19 years old, and this was like a dream for me because imagine being 19, getting into a club where not only are you paid to go there, but in the contract we had it so we would get 2 free drinks. So we could drink on the job, we got to party with all these good looking girls and all these guys just going nuts every night, and you'd always lead into a fight or something or some crazy brawl. So during those times I became very, very friendly with basically the bouncers. If you are in the entertainment industry, the best friends you ever going to have are the bouncers, because when you watch $1,000 worth of equipment and brawls going on all around you, you obviously wanted to protect the stuff, right? So we got really close. Like, we used to hang out with the bouncers outside of the bar, and basically one of the main bouncers at this club ended up getting a job as the main head manager at the time was the largest staging company in Canada. I mean, they were renting these stages out to the likes of Justin Bieber, for crying out loud. And during that time, because I was getting my career off the ground, I ended up putting myself in a dumb position of about over $20,000 in debt. So while I was being a magician, a DJ, and help my buddy out, I was like, this could be a very good part-time job to start helping pay down those loans and those debts. So sign me up. Right now, at the very beginning of this job, it already started very unusual and very weird, because basically the boss, and I want to kind of give you an image of this guy, very short, maybe like 5'3", stubby, relatively fat, really like big beer belly going on, very obnoxious and very loud a lot, like a very kind of self-privileged, didn't give an F what he said in front of other people. And this led to an interesting year. And like I said, this job was a dream job for me because I was playing around with like 6-figure lighting setups, like $50,000 laser lights that would be used at like only events at the scale of things like a beach. Like, I mean, this was really awesome stuff for me, right? And I was the guy that was primarily just cleaning the shop up, helping out with some events, loading trucks up here and there. And I got to know the staff, the few guys that worked with us. It was really intriguing, right? But a lot of things led up to events like, let's use the wedding show as an example. At the Toronto Convention Center, we were setting up the main stage for people to basically show off like bridal gowns, and there was all these huge RVs and rental companies obviously just kind of publicly displaying their products for all these brides and grooms that were going to be getting married soon. And I remember we getting to this job, mainly getting the stage finalized and set up, and out of nowhere we realized we were forgetting a bunch of equipment. And I guess the contract on this was very, very tight at the time, and the boss realized it was going to cost a lot of money to go back, grab all this stuff from the shop and bring it here, and he flipped the F out. Like, this was the first real experience I had with this guy that just floored me, because there was a lot, like probably about 100 plus people in the convention center, all this staff getting set up for this event, and here's this guy on the stage throwing massive boxes with like thousands of dollars worth of equipment in it and screaming at us at the top of his lungs, to the point where we were all kind of like just trying to be like, who is this guy? I mean, this is kind of embarrassing, right? Anyways, that was what this guy was kind of like. And I noticed that the environment that we worked in was always shit talking the boss when he wasn't around. Like, this was generally really uncomfortable. But like I said, guys, having my sweaty fingers, my buttery fingers on just about everything, you got to be careful with your cleaners, right? Because I was going through all their past contracts, seeing how much money this company was bringing in, noticed things were slowing down quite a little bit. And it led to this moment where the boss was like, hey, we need to sit down. We need to have a talk. And basically this guy looked at me and said, hey man, we are obviously needing more clients, and you're running your own business, you're working with another company, you got this part-time, why don't you just go out and sales pitch the company, see if you can get us more contracts, more clients. And this is a guy that does not do well with people nobody's ever responded to this guy well. Like, to put it an example, another one, guys, in the entertainment industry, a lot of people puffing up that green stuff, and I remember being on lunch outside, not that I was partaking by any means, but the boss came out and noticed one of the best employees we had was puffing up a little bit. He says, hey, you can't do that here. What are you doing? That's horrible. You need to put that out. He's like, fire me. It's like, I don't need this shit. I'm going to smoke if I want to smoke. And it's like lunchtime, by the way. You got these wake and bake kind of people. Anyways, the boss was like, well, fine. And he left with this like really like red face, all pissed off. And he's like, I just don't want to see you ever doing it. Like, just could never get employees to do what he wanted. Very terrible guy when it was just dealing with staff, right? So when he asked me to be the sales guy, and in my head, I was like, do I really want to represent a guy like this? Like, at the end of the day, like, every client that I knew talked shit about this guy. So I was like, I don't really want to represent. Like, I'm just here to do my job, man. I'm not much of the sales guy. And you know what he said to me? If you're not with us, you're against us. So get out. Me being floored and a little bit miserable about it because I thought I was doing a great job and I was working overtime a lot and he wasn't paying me. He owed me for about a month, like over $800. I was like, all right, fine, I'll leave. And then while I was walking out the door, you know what he said to me? He said, hey, there's nobody here tomorrow. We still need you to come in. It'll be your last day. And I was like, the way you just treated me, the fact that you owe me money, you haven't paid me for a month, you still want me to come in? I was like, fine. I'll come in with some scheming ideas of mine, knowing where all basically the security footage was and how the security system was set up. Obviously having those buttery fingers. I went in the next day, got there nice and early, flicked the security camera off, kind of did my usual not giving a crap cleaning job. Well, I was just throwing some equipment that I could gladly use into the back of my car. I mean, we're talking drapes, we're talking pipe stands and DJ lighting and equipment. I mean, I wasn't stealing like crazy expensive stuff, just enough to make it reasonable, plus maybe a little bit of interest for what I thought he owed me. And that was the last day I worked at that place. It was the last day I saw the boss. It was the last day, like, I worked with most of those guys, and I left pretty happy, right? Now, the moral of this, guys, I don't really know, but this guy was the equivalent of being able to be on like the show The Worst Bosses that ever existed. I mean, this got so bad to the point where I had to bust out my camera and I was quietly filming the manager and the boss arguing. I mean, these people were kicking down doors, like damaging stuff pretty much on a bi-monthly basis here, where they would just have these complete mental meltdowns in front of the staff, which was so inappropriate. I was like, this guy owes me money. Maybe I'll blackmail him. But I'm like, the confrontation with this guy is probably not the best idea. So I ended up just taking all that equipment, and damn, we used that equipment for like several years. Because again, we're going back almost a decade now, right? And that business, just like I predicted, inevitably went pretty much bankrupt. It dissolved. They basically severed. The manager got so pissed off with the boss, he went to start to work on his own company with other guys. All the staff went up and started working for themselves and other companies that were related. And I still to this day, believe it or not, once in the bluest of moons of life, like I think it was about a couple years ago before the pandemic, I actually ran into this guy at some of the events because we still kind of have some of the same contracts, the same guys that we work with. And he was very friendly and nice, but I always remember my business partner running the DJ company at the time. He's like, you should just ask him for your money and see what he says. And I'm like, I think we got a fair deal out of it. I'm just going to leave this guy alone. And it's kind of like those people where in short spurts, they seem like great people, but once you get to know them, it's just like, I don't know how this guy got to where he is in life, but my God, he needs to be like, go back to business school or get slapped upside the head, because man, that guy lost a lot of money. And from my understanding, his mom kind of passed away and he used his mom's inheritance to buy that company. And it just bothered me so much, because even at that time I was starting to invest in stocks and I was like, man, this dude could have just dumped all of his mom's savings into like the S&P 500, and where he would have been today without all of that stress and without all of that BS of that company would have just been night and day difference from the legacy that dude could have left his kids. Now, I'm probably making some blanket bold statements. I don't know the guy that well. He had a wife, kid, all that stuff. But from what I was seeing at work, there was clearly a lot of emotional problems underneath the hood that he had to deal with. And like I said, I got nothing against the guy. For the experiences I got out of that company at the time, building those huge structures and lighting and getting to see how all the back end of that stuff worked, it was endearing for me. Like it was a great experience. I'll remember for the rest of my life, and at least I can appreciate it for that. But I think those experiences led me to a resiliency in self-employment and just kind of understanding how the business world works, and has led me to where I am today with you guys and this YouTube channel, and realizing that, honesty is usually the best thing within a business, because even if you make a mistake, you do something wrong, if you're just honest and you're focused on fixing the problems and moving forward and just being really, nice and overly bearingly nice to your clients and things like that, you usually end up doing just fine. But so I learned a lot about how not to run a business, and I want to pass this question off to you. Did you guys appreciate this story? Let me know what you think in that comment section below. I needed a break from this Monday. This Monday has been, needless to say, a Twilight Zone, overwhelming, and it's just ridiculous, and it's never a happy-go-lucky events these days, let's be real. But stay cool, stay awesome, and as always, I look forward to catching you in the next one.